Hi, it's been a year since we moved here, so I thought it's high time we did a complete update on where we are and where we hope to be and how we feel about it. And I'm also testing a new way of videoing with a big old selfie stick and using the front camera. So let's try and figure out how we show the pond first of all. Behind me you'll see the gate and learning how to do this. There's the pond. That's it, figured it out. As you can see, I've got a lovely little, I just love being near this and watching it from the window of the static, and it regularly needs cleaning out. At least once a week I get in there and clean it out and sort out that little running waterfall that you can see there. So that's been wonderful. Our front garden as such, which is that flower bed there, is all beginning to die off now for the autumn stroke winter, and we've got a bit there. So what I've got to do, which is what I did this time last year when we arrived, is literally pull everything out, cut all the roses down and see what springs up next year, and maybe add a few more flowers like I did this year. I was talking about being able to watch the pond and the birds from the static. That's the lounge window in the static. It's lovely in the winter. You can't get out here and it might be pouring with rain, to be able to watch the bird feeding station here, which normally has loads of activity, but for some reason it's pretty quiet. I think it's because we've just had 2 days of quite strong wind, and the birds are probably hiding way up in the tree. Round here is if I can show you the back of the static, where we've got pipes, water pipes and things coming out. We had a lot to learn over the last year about that. We discovered that the water was literally just coming out of the bottom of the static, some of the drainage water, and we were worried that it was going to soak the ground and make the static sink at some point. So we had a go at sorting that out, added some pipes coming out and whatnot. We discovered that because of the trees above the static, as you can see, you get lots of gunk on the roof, so that regularly has to be cleaned up and everything. And another thing that we had to learn very, very quickly was, can you see there's a tree that's being kind of chopped down a bit in the middle of 2 other trees that started to fall in a bad storm? So we very quickly learned how to cut it down with just a very small chainsaw and a rope tied to the back of the Land Rover, so that we could pull it in the right direction at the same time. Here we have one pile of rubble from a wall of the bungalow that fell down. On that subject, we have been ghosted for about the 3rd time by the builder that we've hired to just do the external work on the bungalow. Because we've been paying as we've gone along in the contract for materials that he said he's needed, and then only paying him for labour when he's done it, we've now got tons of materials lying around on site that are no good to us unless we've got a tradesman who knows what he's doing. We've spent 80% of the budget agreed in the contract, but only, as you can see, about 20% of the work done. He basically strips the roof of old tiles, which we managed to sell. He's replaced the battens twice now because he's kept leaving it and allowing it to get broken by storm damage. But we made him pay for the second lot of battens because it's his fault for constantly leaving it so long. And it was one of the reasons that our gable end wall fell down. And that's the wall. And that's the static. And believe it or not, it actually hit the static. But we couldn't even see any scratches, so we feel like God was really protecting us there. Round here you can see kind of more of what's being done or not being done. We've got one door fitted, we've got a couple of windows around the other side have been fitted, but everything's just kind of left up in arms. And we're fully expecting that the scaffold company that put the scaffold up almost a year ago now are just going to turn up one day and say, sorry, you can't have that scaffold any longer, even though we were told by the builder that it's been hired on a as long as needed basis, because I doubt if the scaffold company expected him to be hanging on to the job for that long. I'm giving him till beginning of September because his last words in July was that he would finish by the end of August. If he doesn't, then in September I think we've got no option but to send him a pre-court action letter in the hope that he will then just get on and finish the job to avoid court action. I think it was good foresight that we did actually get a contract from him stating what he was going to do for what cost. So, and I've got evidence of all emails, text messages, stuff like that. We're kind of keeping up with cutting things down now. If you can see there, this is like our what we call our main garden area where we sit and lounge, and I've built like a lovely little playground for the kids. They've only been able to come and use it a couple of times, but I'm sure at some point in the future they'll get good use out of it. That was a promise that I made to my little 7-year-old granddaughter when she was still only 6 and learned that we were moving. She's like, oh Nanny, how are we going to come and see you and play? At the time we just had a trampoline in the old garden, so I said, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a playground after we've moved because we'll have a much bigger garden. We've in the barn, that's where some of the materials are that are no good to us. We've got an area full of cladding. We've got cladding for the bungalow. Inside the bungalow we've got all the doors and windows that we will need. The roofing materials have also been paid for but not yet delivered to site, because the guy kept saying, oh, I'll have them delivered next week, and he's been saying that for months. So that's something else that we'll have to put in the court action, because we've got, again, luckily we got evidence of all payments that have been made to him, invoices, what the payments were for and so forth. But I really want to avoid all this court action nonsense. And in the letter that I send him in September, I'm going to basically say, well, I'll give you till the end of October to finish the job, which I think is more than reasonable, and we can avoid any court action and say goodbye to each other. This is just another view of our garden going back. The sun comes up in that direction and goes down in that direction, so it'll be the one of the windows that you can see behind me in the bungalow is a window for what will be our bedroom, and the double doors that have been fitted will be the doors to the garden from the lounge. So that'll be nice for seeing the sun come up in the morning. And when I get down to the bottom of the field, I'll be able to show you an area that we eventually want to set up as a sitting area for when the sun sets. I'm now walking through one part of our orchard. We have got a lovely willow tree that we haven't had to cut down. I think you can, yeah, there it is. That's the main willow tree that the 21 guinea fowl love to get up in at night. That's where they like to bed down. They don't seem to like going inside buildings. Here we have, this is the cherry tree, and I think the cherries are more or less gone now. Yeah, there's not a lot to them, but we have had some lovely cherries off of there. I'm trying to find a bit that's still got some nice cherries, but I can't see them. Here we have damson plums, I think they're called, and I'm trying to find an area where there's some nice ones. Just here, if I can. There we are. We've got, this is in abundance, this, and I think it's because we finally exposed it to the sun. I don't know if you can see, like just up there, loads and loads of damson plums, which we pick a few every day. And we also have, kind of mixed in a little bit with that tree, we have a conference pear tree. There we go, there's one pear, and there's another pear tree that you'll see as I walk down. We've got a little building there that's going to be demolished. It was housing the chickens on and off, but we've decided on which chicken house to keep for now. 2 greenhouses. One is full of shelves and trays for growing. Another one, John has rigged up a kind of a workbench in there so that even in the winter, and even if it's raining, he can be on his workbench doing little bits and pieces. Round here, this is the chicken house that the chickens use at the moment. Let's try and show you that properly. It's got a fairly open run, so that if they do wake up a lot earlier than us in the morning, they can at least get out in the sunshine. And then there's kind of like half a shed at the back of it with some perches where they can perch away from rain and whatnot. We have a temporary winter house for them as well, which is here with a couple of little perching boxes and a ladder that they can climb up. In here we've also got a lot of wood that we've cut down. This is just the result of some of the trees that we've cut down. We started storing in here and then realised we were going to have a lot more to store as time goes on. And that's literally just from trimming branches that are coming loose. Here we've got, this is going to be our main pile of rubble. And when we have finished collecting rubble, we're going to hire a big old machine that's going to crush it all down. And the plan is to extend, we've got like, you can probably see there's some stones on the ground, to basically extend that, going as far down our field as we can. From the gate to our bottom field is about 600 foot, and we're hoping to create a very rough kind of driveway area for the whole 600 foot. Here we have the original, what we called wood barn, which as you can see is overflowing with stuff that we've cut down, and we're just trying to keep it away from the weather. Out in the open, we've got even more branches that have been cut down, and we'll just have to stay out in the open. Here we've just got a general breeze blocks, bricks, all kinds of things from stuff that we've demolished. We're hoping to use most of these breeze blocks to build a proper winter house for the chickens. house, what they used to have was here. You can see the footings for the original house. When we moved here last year, we noticed it had 2 leaning walls. By the end of last winter, it had 3 leaning walls, and we just felt it was too dangerous for any of us to be walking in there, or even for the chickens to be in there. So we had a wonderful battle with the chickens. The day we decided to close this off, they kept sitting outside night after night wanting to go back in there because that was their favourite house. We used to put food and all kinds of treats in the other house that we wanted them to go to, and they wouldn't do it. They spent a few nights literally just sitting in trees or sitting outside all night, refusing to go in, and we were obviously worried that a fox would come and get them. But we persevered and persevered. One day we managed to get them in the other chicken house with some food, so we locked them in just for a couple of days. Then we started letting them out again, and now all seems to be well. They've accepted their new temporary house. Under here I've got, I don't know if I can show it properly, it's under a cover. It's a freewheel bike that I've added an electric motor to, with the intention of getting out and doing lots of bike riding and whatnot, because I absolutely always have loved riding a bike. But a few years ago I gave up even on the electric bike because my balance wasn't so good on 2 wheels, and I was having too many accidents, especially in the road, and it just didn't feel wise or safe to continue doing that. So I thought, oh, great idea, I'll get myself a freewheeler, add a bit of electric to it to help, because my joints are all a bit weak from arthritis. But what I didn't know before I bought it was that the camber of the road is not good with a freewheeler bike. You feel like you're going to fall off constantly. But I've persevered a little bit and learnt a little bit how to ride it. Still not brilliantly confident, and also since the spring, when I thought I'd start getting out on the bike a lot more, we've had tons and tons of cutting to do. Weeds are just growing like nobody's business. So I feel like every spare minute that I've got to be out here cutting stuff and keeping stuff under control, because we've discovered from one of our neighbours that it's actually affecting his lawn, and we also discovered that one of the weeds that seems to grow prolifically on this land is harmful to horses. So we're doing our best to keep all that down. Over here is an area that we very enthusiastically built in the winter, with the idea that it would be our kind of planting area. We've got various old pallets and things that we turned into planters. I started some food off in the greenhouse last winter and finished it off out here. We've managed to get lettuces, parsley, strawberries, what else have we had? Rainbow chard, rhubarb. Rhubarb grows nice and easily. We've got some tomatoes, but for some reason they're just not growing as well as they used to in our other place. Where are we? I think we've just got our first red one. Yeah, let's have a look down here. Where are we? There. Our first red tomato of the year, which is really, really late. And as you can see, because we haven't really had a lot of time, a lot of the planters that we've built out of pallets are now just basically full of weeds. But we'll get there. You know, we're not too worried. We're just going to take one step at a time. When we haven't got, you know, when we've got our trees under control and we've cut our orchard, let's have a look at the view from here through there. I think you might just be able to see the bungalow through there. From the bungalow, the only thing that we could see before was like a fence and a couple of old rickety buildings that was blocking the view going through the orchard down to the bottom. So we can now see more or less through to this section that I'm standing in here, and eventually when we knock down those old wood barns after we've built the new buildings that we want to build, then we will have a nice clear view going down. So let's take you down into the bottom field. Oh yeah, the trees in this orchard. We have got a little conference pear tree. There we go, conference pears. We have got various apples down here and right at the front of the property by our driveway. The nicest ones that we found, these are kind of okay. I've got no idea what they are. I've tried like Googling and whatnot, but you don't always get an answer. That's what that one looks like. I'm not sure if you can actually see it. They're kind of okay. Out the front, we've got some apples that taste a bit like Golden Delicious. We've got some greenish apples here, but I think they are cookers. Where are we? That's those. I'm pretty certain that they're cookers. Here behind me, we have got some ornamental trees and bushes, which look lovely in the winter when all this dies back. This one here is my fig tree, which had one small crop of figs that didn't quite become edible. And I think it's because this whole orchard was absolutely like covered in with other old trees that were already dead and stuff like that. Like for example, if you look at this tree, a lot of it has started to die off and fall apart, which we're allowing it to do. We cut the trees back to what we thought was reasonable last winter. We're going to trim them a bit more, and I think allowing the sun to come in here, because there was no sunshine here at all in this part of the land, it's allowed things to start growing, but not quite as they should be. I don't know if you can see behind me here. Usually as I'm out and about working, I catch sight of a few chickens or a few guinea fowl. That behind me is the cockerel and a couple of chickens. They've been sitting out in the sunshine, now they've gone into the shade. You learn an awful lot from just watching what the animals do. You know, they make the absolute best of a sunny day when it's cold, and they know where all the good little sunspots are, so they've taught us that. But then when it's too hot, they've also shown us exactly where the best shady spots are. Behind me now is the other willow that we are able to keep because it's far enough away from the bungalow. I don't think any of the animals use it, but I like looking at it. Eventually I'll be able to clear some space around it. We have started, I don't know if I can show you, a composting area. We've got we've got 3 compost bins. Talking of which, somebody's left the lid off of that one. I don't know why. We're still kind of learning a bit about compost, how to do it, how long to leave it after you've filled up a bin and everything. I made a little bit of a hash of it last winter, so I've got a pile down there that is just on the ground and is gradually going to be scooped into those compost bins. Here we have another massive area of tree branches which stretches for about, I would say, almost 100 foot by about 30 foot. So that is branches that have yet to be sorted, and what's happened now is that a ton of weeds have grown up around them. Here we've got a really prolific part of and it's about the same again, about 100 foot by about 30 foot of weeds that I just could not get under control. So I've left them for this year, and it's kind of annoying because I spent the whole of last winter cutting down, and I got the entire plot completely flat like that, what you can see behind me. So it was really disappointing to see things growing up faster than I could possibly keep up with it. One of the things we've obviously got to save up for at some point is some kind of ride-on mower or small garden tractor. There's a better view there of the area that's full of branches, and a better view there of the area that's absolutely full of weeds. When we do clear those weeds, there's a nice big tree there that's going to be a good spot for sitting under and having a picnic. And down here is another plum tree. If I turn around, you'll see it. This is the very bottom of our plot, that tree that's behind me now, and that is the spot that we're going to set up an area where we can sit in the evening and watch the sun go down, because from that spot you've got a nice clear view for at least, trying to think, 600, probably about 250 to 300 feet. What I like about is that as I'm pushing the mower up there, I often see farmers at work. If I can show you bits of machinery there, and you often see rabbits running around, which everyone in the country seems to hate, but we don't care if they take a little bit of the food. We're just helping to keep the wildlife fed. We enjoy seeing them. It's so nice of an evening when the rabbits and the guinea fowl and the chickens are settling down at the end of the day. And the next field, which also stretches about 600 foot but is slightly wider than our plot, is the field that we are renting from a local charity whose only aim is to buy land up and keep it as like agricultural or grazing. So that's nice that we can rent that from them and just feel like we've got a little bit more space than we actually have. And that's hard work to keep that cut down, but John gets out there practically every day and works on that section and try and keep these massive weeds down. Trying to think of what else I can say as an update. I think that's just about everything that's happened. The main benefits to us of living here is the feeling of space, the waking up in the morning on your own little bit of land that we've often dreamt of, the peace and quiet, you know, that kind of village feel. I've got about a 20-minute walk to the only village shop, but it's a lovely walk. It's along a quiet lane, and the only you know, that's the lane that we live on. The only traffic that comes down it is particularly for these properties, so that's nice. We've got another area of junk there that's probably just going to be broken up for firewood. The log burner in the winter we kind of struggled with learning how to use it, how to light it and keep it alight, without spending an absolute fortune on things like firelighters, and how to, we're still struggling kind of learning how to make kindle and whatnot. But what we ended up doing last winter, just out of desperation almost, was buying a couple of plug-in electric heaters, so that, you know, we've got that as background heating while we learn what we do. We do know that on the few successful days that we had with the log burner, that when you get it going and you keep it going, you certainly don't need any other form of heating in that static, and it will probably be the same in the bungalow, because they can let off some fierce heat. Ours is a current log burner we got is a little 5 kilowatt one. One day when we've got the money, we'll upgrade to something bigger for the bungalow, and That will solve a lot of problems. Oh yeah, forgot to show you this. This was just a frame of an old greenhouse that was lying around, all in bits. So I found enough bits to put it together and turn it into something. What I had to do was buy some plastic sheeting to create glass in it, because not enough of the glass on site was the right size. And then we did have an old hot tub lying around that we used to use at our last place. Well, once I'd created this little hut thing or greenhouse, got the hot tub all ready, put it in there, set it up, and it wasn't working properly, and it was like a bit of a catastrophic failure in that it kept tripping out the entirety of our electricity. So we dumped that, searched online for another bargain blow up hot tub, bought that, ended up having to buy a new cover as well, and I've ended up having to cover this thing in duct tape on the inside as well as clips on the outside, because the wind here gets so strong that it will do everything it can to lift up these flaps. And it's been put to the test today, the last couple of days, because we've had gusts of up to 45 mile an hour, and we've held them. We know from last year that we could end up with gusts of up to 60 mile an hour on a bad day here. So I'm pretty confident though that it will hold up to that. And it's nice at the end of a hard day to come in here and sit in a hot tub before you then go and have a shower. And I'm hoping it will be cheap enough to run in the winter as well. Because in our last place we used to keep the blow up hot tub in our conservatory so that we could use it all year round. The other thing we've had to do, because the bedroom in the static is so small that the so-called double bed is only 4 foot wide, which is nice if you want to sleep literally spooning, but to get a good night's sleep you want a decent sized bed for 2 of you. And we already had a bed in a camper van that was 5 foot wide, so we basically just bought there was just a cheap mattress in there, but we bought ourselves a decent super king size mattress, and we've stuck it in the back of the camper van, and this is our bedroom basically, because we can plug it into the mains when it's parked up next to the static. And it does also means that when I go back to Essex to see family, I've got everything I need in here. Bed's all made up. We've got running water in here. We have got a shower and a toilet in here, but the shower needs, we had to replace the shower tray, and there's still a little bit of work to do on that because the new shower tray didn't quite match up. Got microwave in here. I've had a few weekends back in Essex now on my own because John's a bit wary about letting any strangers come and feed the animals and whatnot. So he's happy for me to nip back to Essex from time to time for the odd weekend, see the grandchildren and the rest of the family. And I've been quite cosy in here. And then of course John uses the bed in the static while I'm away, so that solves that problem. I've even, because we like coming in here after a long day, we had like a portable TV that I was using in the bedroom of the static. I decided I might as well stick it up on the wall in here. And we've got this magnetic aerial that I picked up off of, I think it was a TikTok shop, for about 20 quid, something like that. And the good thing about it being magnetic, is quite a strong magnet, is that I can literally just put it out of the window anywhere on the roof that gets a decent signal, and we can watch live TV if we want to. But 90% of the time we're just watching TV via the internet, you know, like the apps, BBC and whatnot. So the other thing that we've got in here, if we are hooked up to the mains of the static and this is plugged in, this brings the signal from our router in the static to in here, so that we can get a decent internet signal sitting inside here, and more than good enough for the TV. Here's John cutting. He usually aims to do a certain amount of cutting every day to keep these fields going, and then he spends like the last bit of the afternoon, if he's feeling up to doing anything, doing odd jobs like demolishing stuff. We've got 2 of these pig pens that we've yet to decide what to do with them. It costs more money than it's worth to get them moved for scrap metal, so we're just hanging on to them because one day we might use them. There's some of the guinea fowl that tend to stick together mainly in a flock. Oh, I know what I haven't shown you. Let's go round here. A little source of blackberries, which I'm pleased about, because one of the things I've often liked doing when I've gone out for bike rides around Essex or walks is picking a few blackberries and just eating them while I'm out. But now don't even have to leave home to do that, because we've got some blackberries here and we can access them from our side of the property as well as the field that we're renting. And here they are. I can show you. There, lovely. So that's nice. I discovered them more or less on our first week here last year, and we couldn't wait to make some pancakes and have a bit of yoghurt and blackberries with it. So that was a nice first surprise. Yeah, I was kind of explaining about the blessings and the drawbacks. We did have a conversation recently because we've realised we're coming up to a year. Are we still happy that we did this? Biggest drawback is being at least a 2 hour, more like 3 hour sometimes, drive away from the rest of the family, when we've always lived kind of fairly close to each other. But we wake up every morning, and apart from the work that you have to do, it kind of feels like you're on holiday, you know. You wake up, you see the birds feeding, you see the squirrels, you see your chickens. You can collect eggs almost every day, you know, and cook them, and they're far better eggs than I've ever bought in any shop. So that's nice. We're slowly getting to know people in the village, mainly from the church that we go to, and you know, some of them have become quite good friends, so that's nice. And it's nice to have that kind of moral support. We found a really good mechanic locally who was thankfully looked after my van. When we moved here, we had the camper van was off the road because we were told it needed new fuel injectors, and that was quite expensive. And the Land Rover was still going strong. So we drove here in the Land Rover, got the camper van eventually brought here on a truck, and now we're in the reverse situation. The Land Rover has had the suspension literally drop out of it, so we know that's going to be ultra expensive, but luckily we've got the space just to keep it here until we can do something with it. And then through somebody in the church, I discovered a local mechanic, and I thought, well, it's time to maybe find out what we can do to get the van on the road. It ended up costing less than half what I was told back in Essex, because it didn't quite have so many problems on it as we thought, but it's actually been off the road through various different problems 2 or 3 times since, but not cost the earth to get it fixed. And this guy really seems to know his stuff. But that's one of the joys of having vehicles. You always seem to be getting things fixed on them, especially if they're not that new. Because the camper van now would be 14, 15 years old, and the Land Rover almost 20 years old. So it's understandable that they're going to constantly have things going wrong with them. But it's one of those things. I think that's just about everything now, and I've rabbited on for like 40 minutes, showed you everything I can, and I hope you've enjoyed this update.